Hey gang, welcome back to Jade's Garage. Today's video is a continuation of the Vintage era install on the 68 Mustang known as Jade. If you like videos like this, hit the subscribe button and the bell notification to see more. Alright, so this video we're going to go forward with the installation process. We're going to wire up the Vintage era kit. And in the previous video we installed the hard lines and the rubber hard lines and the rubber lines and that sort of thing. Put a can of refrigerant into the system, but we can't cycle anything until we're able to run a compressor. So we're going to try to get the wiring hooked up and move forward from there. In the previous video, we installed the hoses, installed the hard lines. We did a leak check on this and or vacuum on it, and added 1 can of R134. And we also I went around and used some Windex and went over all of the connections. We didn't find any leaks, so we're pretty happy with that. Now this kit has a wiring bundle here, heater control, there's controllers for the actual movement that you would have with the like the original control style. So this has to be incorporated into this, and we're just going to have to connect things and make sure everything works correctly. And thankfully the Infernal Craftsman is here to help. Alright, so the wiring diagram, when you look at this, you can easily get overwhelmed. I mean, I've looked at many a wiring diagram, and you can break it down. It tells you circuit breaker, it tells you compressor relay, battery, items like that. This section here that's in the gray says this is pre-wired, which is the internal box. So we're going to use this as a reference point. And then there was another one, I think it was it this one?
Maybe this one here.
That it shows you basically, here's the firewall, and this is what goes on this side of the firewall, and this is what goes on this side of the firewall. So with that, there's a circuit breaker out here that's going to attach to the battery. It also has some wiring that's going to lead over to the binary switch, which comes back to the compressor. Heater control, which I'm not going to install yet because I don't need to. We'll run the wiring for that though. Chassis, ground, different things like that, and then your connections, red and green, and different things. So it can again be overwhelming sometimes when you look at these, but if you slow down and kind of identify which item is which and follow the diagrams, it helps you out a lot. So an observation we're making here is, the single red wire, we're going to leave that connected. Again, because this has to go inside the car. And Robert and I were talking about it, like, well, why do they leave all this length here, all this untaped wire? Well, the reality is they want you to decide what length you need this to be. So it's up to you to, cut it, trim it, and tape it. So we'll just take this off. Little lock washer on there. And there you go. So this now is isolated. Well, we can pull this apart. So there, now we have the circuit breaker by itself, and I need to find a place to mount this. Alright, so we were working on, trying to get the wiring in place. There's one grommet down here that is probably 3/8 of diameter maybe. And the wiring connector for the heater control is bigger. So this is the male end, and the female end, you'd have a hard time getting it through that hole. So what we chose to do was the lower AC line has a lot of space around the grommet, and I had already cut that before whenever I ran that line through the firewall. So we're just push that line through that grommet, and now this wire can be connected to the inside. And then we can focus on getting the other wires through that regular grommet hole.
Got it.
2.
Got it.
3. Alright. So there's those.
Okay, I stopped.
Okay, good stuff.
I've got that big piece outside, and
Alright.
we're ready to go.
So as we're making progress on getting the wiring in place, we did mount the relay up on the side of the kick panel, let's say. And there's also, and there's also 2 ground wires. this white, and then this wire, which is an independent ground. What this is used for is calibrating the slide controls, and that'll get more detailed later. But basically, it's connected to this lead, and then you cycle them and disconnect it, and it's supposed to calibrate the controls. So that will always be disconnected after everything's in place. This connector here, red and green, is going to connect to this red and green, which is connected to the heater control. So that's what that connects to. So you can, take some of this wire, you may have to loop it up and use some zip ties to hold it in place. And then we have this red and white wire, which will connect to this red and white wire out of the top of the box. This wire here, the purple wire, is for the ignition, and then the tan wire is for the dash backlights. Now, we don't know what that really means, what you would gain from having that connected to the dash lights, but if we need to, we'll connect it and go from there. This flat bar connector, it'll go up there into that slot. Now out here under the hood, the heater control unit has to mount with a servo facing down. So that's the important part in that configuration. Now whether this gets, how this gets attached directly, I don't know yet. I'm gonna maybe make a bracket or something that'll hold it to this shock tower brace. I haven't decided yet. Here we have the bundle of wires coming out from the grommet. The blue wire goes to the binary switch, and initially we considered running it with the hoses, but we found there's enough length that we can actually feed it underneath the battery box, follow the wire bundle out, follow it across, and there's enough length to bring it all the way up to the binary switch. So that'll take care of that, and we're good to go. The other thing we have to do, we did connect, is this connection, this connector. We have fed through a hole underneath that grommet setup inside to the compressor. The other thing that we want to do is this circuit breaker. It's probably going to be mounted somewhere in this area right below the solenoid. That kind of hides it a little bit, and then the wiring can come in from the side or from the bottom. So we'll play with that and show you that once that's in place. So now we have the circuit breaker mounted below the solenoid. Ground wires, we shortened them up. They are actually using the mount point for the breaker as a ground point, and then power lead coming out and going to the positive side of the post on the solenoid. The blue wire, we're going to have it follow the wire bundle, separate down here, and it's going to follow the wire bundle that goes out and under the battery and comes out here. Everything's looking pretty good at this point. Underneath the dash, I have connected all the main wiring. Nothing is zip tied in place yet. I don't want to do that. I want to make sure everything works before I start fighting with problems. The plan at this point is to work on the switch mechanism. I think what we'll do is we're going to take this apart, mount this in place just to give it something we can be able to hang on to and move it around, and not worry about fully assembling it, just having something stable that we can put everything in. So we did notice that this has 4 bundles or 4 connectors on it. Well, this only has 3, and one of these said AC as maybe a switch mechanism. I don't know. We were looking at the instructions, and here it says AC if used, which I'm not sure what that means, because we have temperature, mode, and fan, but it's almost implying that there's a separate AC switch of some sort. I don't know. This car, this configuration, the car itself was a factory AC car. The kit that I ordered was a factory AC kit. So I don't know if that's designed for like a non-AC car and you have to add in something. I don't know for sure. I'm just pointing that out. But we'll get this connected and move on from there. Now again, I'll probably take these apart later. I could put those sliders on there.
I wouldn't bother at this point.
I don't know that it would really matter much. And so what do you have there as far as...
All right, and to identify these, we go by the middle wire. On all three of these, go by the middle wire. This one is, as you can see, it is white with a red stripe. So that means a white with a red stripe goes to the temperature. White and green is the fan.
That's okay. That's the one below that one.
Okay.
Hopefully I got this in the frame where you can see that.
All right, and that. No, the last one is a white and yellow, which is mode, is what they call it.
Okay, mode. So that's the one that is it. You know, defrost, heat, fresh air, whatever.
And the extra one I've just bundled up over here out of the way.
Yep.
Just, we don't need it, so just keep it out of the way.
And then this assembly, this will just plug into the box underneath the dash where I showed the flat, you know, connector. So that'll plug in, and I don't know if there's much else left. All right, so we have the controls connected to the box under the dash, and you know, this makes it easy because we don't have it mounted, and then we can, no windshield, so this is pretty easy to show you. But we have to calibrate these controls. Now, underneath the dash is that jumper wire that is a ground, and there's a process involved where you cycle it a certain way, connect to ground, and I'm going to let Robert explain that part.
All right. Start off with, just turn the key on, and then you take all of these levers, move them all the way down to the bottom. You will go underneath, plug the jumper in. Now, as soon as the jumper's in, you'll have to wait a few seconds. The fan speed should change, and then after it changes, you will go back, move all three levers all the way back to the top, unplug the jumper, and you're done.
And I should point out, we're not using power from the car as far as the key switch. I have connected the purple wire to a jump box. So that is what's powering the device right now, or the AC unit. So you're going to hear some stuff go on, but I'm not going to turn the key or anything like that. That'll be hooked up later. So we're going to continue on, get those in the position you talked about, wherever you know.
Yep.
So you're ready to go.
Ready to go. Yep.
So I'm going to connect the power. Yes.
Go. Okay. All the levers are down.
Okay.
Now we need to plug in the jumper.
Plugged in.
All right. And now we wait. Okay.
Wow.
The fan speed has changed, and now we will move the levers all the way back to the top, and now we will unplug the jumper, and we should be good to go.
Ah, it went back to 0.
So far, so good.
So now you should be able to turn power on and make it go through different areas of the ducting.
And I can hear the heater valve moving when I move that.
Oh.
I could hear that. And I don't hear anything there, so they're extremely silent, so that's a good thing.
Yeah. We're going to let Robert turn on the control and get some heat, get some fan blowing.
Okay, got the fan going.
And put it on defrost.
On defrost.
Turn the heat up, or turn the fan speed up a little. So yeah, I can feel that definitely blowing out of those 2 ports.
Okay.
But I also want to check, because besides these duct openings here, there's actually vents on the back that are independent, and those blow down on your feet. So I can feel air blowing at the bottom down here from those openings. So go to the other one, which was
That'd be just standard heat.
yeah, just heat. So now I feel an increase in the back at these. I still feel stuff coming out of defrost somewhat,
I can adjust that.
but that could be just fine tuning. Yeah, there it stopped. So Robert moved the control a little, and this stopped, and this increased. And I'm not feeling really anything coming out of these side vents. So try the next setting. Okay. Nothing out of defrost, and now I'm feeling some coming out of these more out of these two, but not so much out of the top. And I'm not feeling anything coming out of the back and the base. So that is all coming out of the end, which is going to push to the driver and passenger areas from the center vents. So I think it's working.
Yeah, what I see that I kind of like about this is because this is a potentiometer,
right?
You actually get a little, because you've got your setting here, and a setting in the middle. You can kind of blend these a little bit, it seems.
It seems
and
that
get
way,
a
yeah.
little bit of a mixture of air instead of it just all being at one vent or all being at the other.
Right.
So that's kind of cool, actually.
So there's the fan full tilt. Yeah. Even that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like there's no indexes.
That's nice. It's not like a click, click, click. It's a nice, nice and smooth, and
that shuts it off. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. So as we have done the cycling of the controls to make sure everything works, Robert has said, and he has experience, and I trust him, that we need to rotate the clutch, independent of anything else. And the reason for that, Robert?
Well, when you have a brand new compressor, basically the brand new compressor's got oil in it, and it's new. It's just kind of like a new engine, and that oil will sometimes kind of get into places. It kind of gets back in places. And when you start that compressor right up off the bat, you don't really want to compress oil. It's not a good idea. So basically, what you want to do is just take on here and. We'll do it as kind of hardboard. We got the fan blade in the way, but we're just going to take and turn this as many times as we can. Some of them will actually have instructions to do it 10 times or so, and we will just turn this piece right here.
Yeah. And I get a hold of it
my
easier
fingers
than you
are
can.
slipping.
But another thing he points out is there is a tool available that you can use that has 3 teeth on it, or 3 prongs, let's say, that you can put into that and rotate it with that. And you also said do not tighten or turn on the nut on the clutch, because you can compress the clutch and it'll cause problems. So I've already turned this a few times, but I'm just going to turn it by hand and rotate that around to get that oil moving into the different areas. Okay, so we're at the point now where we want to do the full charge on the compressor or on the AC system. So to do that, we're going to have to start up the car. And then, of course, Robert's getting the can ready. But we need 28 ounces. And so we only have 12-ounce cans at this point. So we'll do 2. We've already got one 12-ounce can in there. So the second can will be 24. And then a third of a can to finish it off. But I'm going to get the car started. And then we'll come back and see how things look. Clear?
Yep.
Alright, looks like we have everything working. We now have a temperature of 42 degrees inside the car. There's still some things that need to be addressed, as I move forward. Still have to paint the dash and stuff like that, but things are going very well. I want to thank Robert, the Infernal Craftsman, for helping me out with this project, getting the AC ready to go. So if you haven't already, give a look at his channel as well. Again, the Infernal Craftsman. See what he has to offer.
Yep, and if you do, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yep. I do want to mention as well that, I couldn't do this without the support of my patrons. And if you're interested in becoming a patron and seeing longer videos of what I'm doing right here, then there's a link in the description below, and you can be part of that team. So if you're interested, have a look. If you're not, that's okay too. I'll still make videos on YouTube, but they're going to be a little more, a little shorter than the normal stuff that I've been doing. So again, thanks for watching. And until next time, take care of yourselves. See ya.